I I just I just went live, but I'm about to
Oh, yeah, we love.
let me make sure I can edit the audience public, and I think that's it. All right, so welcome to the show tonight. His words, not mine podcast with myself, Pastor Hawkins, Pastor Taylor. We have two special guests tonight, two of our queens from Salisbury, North Carolina itself.
Yeah.
We have Miss Quintina Hobson and we have Miss Alicia Bird Clark. But at first, of course, we're gonna do our business spotlight, and I'm gonna let Quintina tell you a little bit about herself and a little bit about her business.
All right. So thank you guys for having me today. I'm Quintina Hobson, a native of Salisbury, North Carolina, born and raised. I'm the owner of Queenish Apparel LLC. Um, in addition to that, I have a spinoff, which is King Me Apparel for the guys. Um, just to kind of give you some background of how I started. Um, actually, back in 2016, February 2016, I was kind of in a dark place, had experienced some things, was going through anxiety, depression. That kind of went on from February through June. And in the month of June, actually June 2016, I was just praying for peace, just praying for peace. I remember sitting up one night in the bed and the Queenish logo really just dropped down in my spirit. I sat up in my bed, I drew it out. Really didn't know what I was gonna do with it, but that's it. Again, it dropped in my spirit, so I drew it out. I came up with the acronym Queenish, king, a king within a queen, I, she, her. And the next day, I reached out to my cousin who's really good with logos, and I told him to just kind of bring that vision to life. I didn't know what I was wanting to do with it. Um, he brought the logo to life, and on June, actually, what's today's date, you guys? The 25th, June 25th.
Yes, ma'am.
Today,
Mm-hmm.
I put up a Facebook post of just the logo, and everybody was just kind of welcoming the logo, like, "Oh, I want that. Can you put that on a shirt for me?" And the rest is history. I started out with a box of 25 shirts, and then it went on to bathing suits, slides, hoodies. I have home goods, bathroom sets, um, again, you name it, umbrellas. And we just kind of went on from there. And here we are 4 years later with my Queenish apparel line.
Sounds good. Then you aren't you an author as well? Didn't you write a book?
I did write a book. It's called The Queenish Playbook, where it's just kind of guide women to kind of it. It's surrounded by goal setting. I'm sorry, yeah. Um, Goal setting, where you would want to kind of focus on your finances. You would want to focus on your body. You would want to focus on your spirituality, and then you have your miscellaneous items that you would want to kind of balance out with your everyday life. And I did that back in January of 2019. The Queenish Playbook.
Sounds good. Sounds good. I definitely for the people that want to order something tonight or in the near future, definitely support Quintina. I've been knowing her since middle school.
Knox Middle.
Knox Middle. Oh, yeah.
Yeah, say that again.
Knox
Say
Middle.
Knox Middle.
Trojans.
Knox Middle. She's definitely a intelligent young lady, very driven. I've always had a high respect for her. So y'all need to definitely support her, support her business, man. Definitely. I'm gonna put the link. In the stat once we're all done. So if you want to order something, go order something tonight. She has a lot of stuff. She ain't got enough for big boys like me, but she got stuff.
I can make it work. I can make it happen. I can make it happen.
She can make it happen.
I can make it happen.
I'm gonna put my order in now. You got to get me right.
Yeah.
I got you.
We both gonna get it in. We gonna support it. Definitely.
But Quintina, man, I definitely appreciate you for coming out and talking to us and letting us know about your business. And we hope God continue to bless you, man.
Thank you so much
Most
for having me.
Thanks, Queen. Good job, man. I'm proud of you.
Thank
Very
you.
proud.
Good stuff.
Take care.
All right.
All right. Thank Quintina for coming on tonight, man. Most definitely thank her for coming on. Now we have gonna get the show jumping. Get it started. Get it started. We have somebody that's very highly respected in the community. I've been knowing her family for a long time. They've been knowing me since I was a little boy. My parents, their parents, everybody know the Birds. Everybody know them. But her name now is Mrs. Bird Clark, and her husband was the late great Alex Clark. And I'm gonna just start off by saying this before I let her get into the legacy of Mr. Alex Clark. I didn't know him personally, but the fact that I didn't know him personally and I know so many great things about him just lets me know what type of man he was, how great he was to our community. And when I hear other people talk about him, I just wish, like one of my good friends, Nick Means, I was like, he talks about him all the time. And I just wish I could have got to know Mr. Alex Clark before he passed away. But I'm gonna let Miss Bird Clark talk to you about her husband, and then we're just gonna kind of get into our spiel. Miss Clark, you have the floor.
Thank you. Good evening, gentlemen. And it's always great to be in the presence of my classmate, Bradley Taylor.
Yeah.
Thank you guys for the opportunity to come on and share some things about Alex. Alex was one of the most extraordinary men I've ever been able to meet besides my grandfather. And the way Alex and I met, it was based upon mistaken identity. Some knew of him as Duke. I knew of him, but I never knew him. So growing up in Salisbury, I always heard about Duke. I never heard about Alex, but it was always about Duke. But I never knew him personally. I didn't know what he looked like. I didn't see the cars that people say he drove or, any of those things. And so one night we were at Jerusalem Baptist Church for an interdenominational revival. And he walked by and I was like, hey. And he looked at me and said, peace and blessings. And I'm like, peace and blessings. I thought Alex was Harvey White because they resemble each other so much. And so Harvey and I have always been cool. And so during that time, I'm looking at my mom and my daughter and like, Harvey is acting funny. So a couple of weeks later, I started getting messages in my Facebook inbox from Alex Clark, again, not knowing who Alex Clark is or anything. And so it was just like I disregarded them because of, I didn't know him. And so he ended up sending another one and started asking about the protocol of my nonprofit. And so him and I met and discussed some business affairs or whatnot. And the story, went on from there. And so you take, a previous drug dealer and you take someone who was pretty much a professional. By that time I had, received my college degrees and was in my lane with starting my career. And my thing was, I don't think I want to get wrapped up or hemmed up with this guy that just served a 18-year prison sentence. Wow. And so we both just end up meeting each other in some dark places. He was just now coming home. I had recently resigned from my job at the city of Salisbury, had interrupted my daughter's high school years, moved back in with my mom and was, trying to find myself again. And he had just came home from prison and was living with his mother. So here we couldn't even really go to each other's home to date, court, whatever you want to say, because we were living with, parents. Wow. And Alex and I started having a parking lot relationship. And what I mean by that, we met at Kmart, we met at Cookout, we met at Walmart, but we had the best conversations during those times. And so, Alex mentioned what he had planned on doing. with himself and the goals that he had set and everything of that sort. And so during this time, Alex asked me for 21 days
Mm.
to change my life.
Mm.
And I'm like, what is this man going to do or say to me in 21 days to change my life? When I tell you guys, he reached into the depths of my soul and he nurtured, he restored, he poured into me in ways that I had never been poured into in my life.
Wow.
And he made sure that I felt worthy enough, I felt valued enough as a woman before he started doing all these things. And so the conversations just led from one thing to another. And so after the 21 days, he asked me for 21 more. And by that time he had me. I mean, I was wrapped around his finger after that. You know, it's just to know him was to love him. He was very smart, very articulate.
He was.
Alex could have really had a conversation with Martin Luther King, with Malcolm X, with Marcus Garvey, with Barack Obama, and would have been able to hold his own.
Right.
He was very, very intelligent. He read a lot, academically astute. He knew the Bible from Genesis to Revelations. I mean, there was nothing you could ask him that he didn't have an answer for. And even in times when he did, you know, let me look into that. But he was just very, very smart. And so he was very business savvy. And so once Alex and I became more and more involved with each other, he started Melanated Genius. And so he has it trademarked. And what I'm going to do is just read to you guys what Melanated Genius means. And I'm glad that I was able to go back on his Facebook page after a while and just, it popped out of nowhere. So he says, peace and blessings, family. As of late, people have been inquiring about Melanated Genius, as well as where the concept derived from. The inspiration for Melanated Genius derived from the immeasurable contributions that our ancestors made to civilization, known and unknown. This is simply my way of paying homage to striving to continue the great work they started for the benefit of humanity. At Melanated Genius, we highlight the accomplishments of melanated people unapologetically. This doesn't mean we don't acknowledge the contributions of others. However, our primary focus is to reintroduce our people to their greatness, as well as what has been strategically kept from us through intentional concealment. Studying the works of intellectual giants such as Sheikh Anta, Dr. Ben Yoshif, Dr. John Henry Clark, Dr. J.A. Rogers, Chancellor Williams, George G.M. James, Ivan Van Sertima, Dr. Francis Cress Wesling, Marcus Garvey, Raul Nefer Amin, Dr. Phil Valentine, Professor James Smalls, Elijah Muhammad, Noble Drew Ali, Dr. Amos Wilson, Dr. Claude Anderson, and others gave me a totally different perspective on what it means to tap into my melanated genius, which could only be done by getting to know myself holistically, which includes strengths and weaknesses. Whether you know these extraordinary scholars or not, we are indebted to them for their courage to challenge a system that did everything it could to suppress and hide the contributions and melanated genius of our ancestors. Of course, the list goes on and on. It has been said that signs and symbols are for the conscious mind, and due to systemic and institutional theft, the signs and symbols that we once used to raise our spiritual vibrations by our ancestors have been co-opted, which in turn causes us to normalize functioning on the level of inferior beings. We're much more than what we've been seduced and hypnotized into believing. But have no fear, because the melanated genius that resides within your spiritual DNA is waiting to be activated to grant you your wishes. We were taught religion. However, we were born a melanated genius. Get to know yourself. Keep being phenomenal. And so with that little snippet of what melanated genius means, Alex was culturally and historically astute. And he made sure that even with our organization, Gemstones and Compass, that our kids knew who they were, where they come from, and what they should stand for and represent. And so this, Melanated Genius was, his brand. And it's always, you have the authority, you have the power to grant your own wishes. And so even with, Melanated Genius and Melanated Beauty that we started, Alex and I had started working on our book, which is called A Beautiful Storm. And so A Beautiful Storm will be out next month. Both of us are self-published authors. He has a book called The Four Queens Understanding the Powers of Your Crown. And so it's a book for women. And he was able to take the four queens from a deck of playing cards. And he broke down their strengths and weaknesses and combined them into the complete queen, which all of us women are. And I'm telling you, it's a great read, not only for women, but for men. When you don't understand why your wife or your significant other acts the way she do, because she got a little bit of that spade in her, she got a little bit of heart in her, she got a little bit of club and diamond. So it basically summarizes the why women act the way that they do. So along with that, with A Beautiful Storm, is finding our purpose on our ALS journey. And so what that encompasses is dealing with, Alex being diagnosed with ALS, because his goal was, I've done my time, I've done 18 years, but I know that I want to make a difference in the community in which I can serve. And so not long after coming home, Alex was diagnosed with ALS. He did not allow ALS to just overtake him completely. I mean, he still had a mission, which was to make a difference in the lives of so many, for youth in particular. And so even with ALS, I watched him pour himself out daily to our kids, not just our biological children, but the children in our program. And so for me, I was honored to have been the chosen one, even with ALS. When he got diagnosed, Alex and I were not married. And he turned to me, he said, Alicia, what are you going to do? And I mean, our foundation had been laid. Our foundation was solid. And I knew for a fact that he was the one that God had for me. And of course, he knew that as well, that I was the one that God had for him. And so me turning my back on him was not an option. And so it was like, I'm just willing to be there with you through thick and thin, sickness and health, the whole nine. And so, we vowed to get married. Was it easy? Absolutely not. But I stuck it out with my husband because I was giving bird, I should say. And I say bird print because my grandparents were married for 74 years. Was it easy for them? No. Did they make it seem easily? Easy? Absolutely. But they were the perfect example to live by and for me to mirror my marriage after. And so I knew even with ALS, there was so much work that we still had yet to accomplish and to do. And Alex, he believed in making it, doing that. Even on his sick bed, people would come into his hospital room. They would come to our home just to talk to Alex about life. They valued his opinion about different things. He was just a great man. And y'all, I'll never forget. It was a month and 4 days later, I believe it was a month and 6 days after we got married, Alex went into respiratory failure and he was put on life support. And it was a really, really rough time. So we were at Novant here in Salisbury for about 31 days. And he got transferred to Moses Cone in Greensboro for 30 days for rehab, for therapy. And this young man found out where Alex was. And he came into his hospital room. He said, Alex, I'm so sorry to come and bother you like this. He said, I know you're fighting for your life. He said, but I'm contemplating suicide. Right. And I just need some of your strength. And he cried. And I videotaped it. He didn't know I videotaped it, but I did. And so it was that type of effect, that type of impact that he had on the lives of men, guys. When I tell you to sit at his feet and just to listen to him talk was a great gift. It was a joy. And he just had a way of just reaching people, where they are and taking them where they wanted to be, or where they were basically, and taking them where they wanted to be. And so as his wife, I was able to witness this, and I would ask his mother on several occasions, where did he come from? Because it's like I learned something new and something different from Alex on a daily basis. And it strengthened me. He was my mentor. He was my husband, but he was my mentor. He kept me grounded. He instilled such greatness in me. And so, even in his absence, my daily affirmation is being extraordinary, because that's one of the things that he pushed. And so, it's every day, what can I do to be extraordinary? What would he expect me to do? And it's to keep pushing and to keep his legacy alive and to keep making a difference in the lives of our youth and our community. And so I'm just grateful to still be able to carry on his legacy and to do that.
Wow.
I know it was a lot.
Wow.
So, when I started,
worth it. That was wonderful.
Nah, you good.
That was wonderful.
Like I said, I mean, they just broke it down. It doesn't even. I've never met him, but just listening to that story is amazing. Because that's powerful. That's powerful. I mean, just when we think about men in the Bible, great men in the Bible, you can even think about Saul turning to Paul.
Yeah.
Paul used to persecute the Christians, and then Paul was one of the greatest disciples ever. And that's just kind of how I look at this situation. I mean, he was in the streets, he was doing his thing, but God finally turned him around.
He did.
It was to where he was working for him, and he used him to bring glory to his name. And that's just, and he impacted so many people. What you think, Pastor Taylor?
Man, it's so good, man. I had the pleasure of speaking and having conversations with him, and everything. Of course, Alicia said it way better than I could, but he was just a phenomenal person. But one of the things I remember about Alex, and one thing, and I want her to kind of speak to this, kind of looking at where we're going now with leadership. I think in our community, kind of needing strong leadership. One thing I admired about Alex was he found good, and he saluted good no matter what it was. Right. No matter if you were doing something, you may not believe everything he believed, you may not walk the way he walked, but if you were doing anything good for our community, that brother was a bridge builder. He was one who pulled people together, and that's what I remember. Him being that bridge, and all the time to make sure that folks didn't bicker and fight. If he could pull it together and kind of paint the picture that we need everybody to be a village that our community needs. And so that's one of the things I will remember, seeing that in action, kind of in the trenches with community leaders, and seeing good in each one, and kind of pulling folks together and building that harmony. And so can you speak to that a little bit, Alicia, because I think that's one of his greatest traits, was to pull people together.
One of the things that I can say that Alex didn't have time for and he despised was the crab mentality. Yeah. His thing basically was there was room for all of us at the table. Everybody has different strengths, and just because my strength is not yours, Bradley, doesn't mean that I don't have one. And so it was more so tapping into what you can do and do it. Don't be afraid, and don't be jealous of somebody else over here doing X, Y, Z. Create your own and do it. And be what's the word? Be secure in what you're doing. Don't slack off just because you feel like you might not have what it takes. Of course you do. You just have to do it. And so when it comes to organizations here, some things we have a tendency to reinvent the wheel and do things because people want their names on it. But again, there's enough room for everybody at the table. And one of the things that I believe in, because I do business startups, and that's something that Alex and I started doing. And my motto is lift as I climb. If there's something that I'm doing that someone else has, and if there's some information that I have that can help another woman or man, I am quick to share the information. Your journey, business-wise, might not look like mine, but there's something that you have to offer as well. And so again, we have to adopt that mindset, lifting others as we climb, and don't be afraid that somebody's on the same level as you. Your journey is still going to be different. And so I do believe that that's one of the mentalities and the mindsets that he had. He wanted to see all of us excel. no matter what. And that's one of the things that I respected about him. Like, just do your own thing. He was big about, you know, the economy and different things that they have in a black chamber and just having stuff for our own. We have a tendency to just shut people out because everybody wants to be in the front. You don't have to be in the front to shine. Some of the best people work behind the scenes to keep it going. So find your place and let's, you know, adopt that mentality that we can all, there's enough room for everybody at the table.
That's so good.
Yeah, I just, first of all, just thank you, Miss Bird Clark, for being on. Me and your sister Nadia went to school together and know your family.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, so, and I met Alex at Chalk, Dewan Chalk's barbershop, and he had just literally came home, and I had an opportunity just to hear him talk and just the wisdom that he spoke about. But, you know, just for us, just to honor the legacy of people. Sometimes I hate that we have to do it after a person.
Yes.
As, you know, went home. I wish we could have done it before. You know, I remember one of the videos that he shared while he was, you know, man, on breathing tubes and just really laying in the bed that I shared on my page, just because I've never seen the strength and resilience of somebody, even in the state and condition that they were, that was so positive and still willing to pour himself out. Like, you know, for me, in my opinion, I literally watched him die empty, you know, and most of us, you know, in our lives that we die.
That's good.
With unfulfilled potential. But when I looked at his life, I saw a man that literally died empty. He emptied out everything that he had to his last breath. And I know I would love for you to speak more on that, but just for me seeing it, watching it from the outside, and I know I wasn't there to even experience it, though, I have to honor and pay homage to the legacy of somebody like that.
Thank you. One thing, there's a section in our book that says that it's called Empty. And so it was about 3 days before Alex passed away. He told me that he was tired of wrestling with God. And so what it was, you had people that came in and said, Alex, you got to fight.
Wow.
We need you here. And God had already spoken to him about where he was. And so Alex's thing was, when I die, I want to die empty. And that day that he passed away, February the 22nd, a man came in to see him. And he came in just to tell Alex, you know, thank you for everything you've done for our community. And he poured into Alex, but Alex had a tendency to reverse things. Like, you could come into our home to see Alex and to see how he's doing, but you leave out like, what just happened? So I know Greg Eggs came one day. He told Alex, he said, I always come in with the mindset of pouring into you. He said, but I feel so bad when I leave because I came with more than what I gave. And so the thing with Alex and dying empty during that time, well, I would say like days prior to his passing, Alex had that mindset that I just got to keep on giving, keep on giving, keep on giving. But God, on the other hand, was like, you know, your time is coming close. And he told us that he said he felt like he was running out of time and he knew it. And this was during the time that he was starting to transition according to, you know, his physicians or whatever. But that day, I saw Alex pour into his family and friends in ways that I had never seen before. And so I know for a fact that that's exactly the way that he left. That day he poured out in so many ways that was just unreal. And so prior to that, one thing Alex said, when it hurts to live, it's not living. And so he had gotten to the point where, you know, just to be able to breathe, just to be able to eat, just to be able to have a, you know, cordial conversation with his family was becoming just a lot. But he knew deep down inside that he still had something to give to somebody. And he made sure that everything that he wanted done, as far as his legacy goes, as far as the charges that he gave me as his wife, he was able to share that stuff with me. And so I have pages of notes, different things that he said, you got to make happen. But one thing in particular, I never forget, Alex was an adamant chess player. He loved playing chess, and he played with the best of them. Boy, he did. And so the day before he passed away, him and I had a heart-to-heart talk, and he told me, he said, God made a chess move for me. My mind is clear. I'm happy. And I posted that on his obituary. And so it was like, I don't know what kind of conversation him and God had, or what he said. These are some things that I need done in order for me to, go on home or whatever. But he was at peace when he left. And so again, back to what you were saying, he did in fact die empty. And I know he did, because I was able to witness everything that he said and did with people who came into that room, the lives he touched, the nurses. He was able to tell them thank you. He was able to tell them how much they meant to him, in everything. And so just to think back on it is just like, wow, even in that, such an amazing and incredible man.
I'd like to ask a question, Reggie, if you don't mind.
Oh, go ahead.
Speaking to community and leaders, what do you think Alex is, if he had one more thing to say to the next generation of leaders that are in our community, what would you think he would give us as leaders who are, up and coming leaders in the city, or leaders that's already established, that's carrying out the work? And I know he's probably said that to a lot of the leaders that were around him, but people like us that did not have the privilege of being that close, what would he say for leaders up and coming?
I think just knowing who Alex was, we all got work to do. And I feel like, even though some of us have started the groundwork and laid just the one layer or two of the foundation, there's so much more work to be done, and you can't be afraid to step up and do it. We have youth that are dependent on us to continue being change agents, but from the way I've seen it, our youth, these millennials have stepped up to the plate, and they're starting to take over what we should be doing. And so even in that, I feel like us as adults and community leaders who are established, we need to be able to support our youth and our young ones and push them to be greater. Give them that moral support that they need and push them into being, the next leaders. Because one thing about it, he always said, our kids are our future leaders of the world, and they are. We do what we can, but we need to set a solid foundation for our youth who are getting ready to take, the places of us eventually. So don't be afraid to step up. Everybody has a voice that needs to be heard and used. And you can't be afraid to voice your opinions and speak your mind. You got to step up. We need more of us in leadership roles. There's not enough of us at the table. And I feel like now, even with everything that has gone on, the tables are about to be turned. And so it's just more so taking advantage of those opportunities as they present themselves. Get involved. Start serving on different boards. Your presence is needed. Yeah.
I'm gonna just say this one thing, and then I'm gonna let Pastor Taylor and Pastor Hawkins. Y'all can't see it, but behind these glasses, I got tears right now, because the simple fact, as Christians, we spend too much time putting our energy in other places when we should be trying to reach the people. Like we should be trying to reach the people. We got one goal, and that goal is to get to heaven. And Mr. Alex Clark just poured his spirit on these people, and they loved him. Like, and we have to spend more of our time loving people. We got to spend more of our time showing these young people, showing other people that we love them. We can't spend our time judging, talking about them. We can't spend our time doing these things. We have to spend our time trying to lead them to Christ, so we can one day, all of us, brothers and sisters, can be in that one spot.
That's right.
Just praising God, just giving God the glory, man. I don't know, man. My heart is full right now, man. Yeah, I'm gonna let y'all have it.
One thing that Alex started was Dinner and Dialogue, a circle of kings. And so what Dinner and Dialogue was, he would use different churches or whatnot and have dinner and dialogue with men and boys. Because his thing was, you have so many boys who have never sat at the dinner table with their dads because they're, either their dad is absent from the family, just don't have time to do that. His mission behind it was to make sure that boys had dinner and conversation with men. And so he loved dinner and dialogue. And Pastor Anthony Smith and Bates and Nick, all of them were heavily involved with dinner and dialogue. And so that's one of the things that, I can't do it because women were banned. He didn't allow women to come into dinner and dialogue because he felt like there was a sacred time just set aside for men and boys. And so there's been so many Saturdays that I want to put up, dinner and dialogue, a family edition, and something would happen, like him, saying, you're not supposed to do that. And so when I saw this type of dialogue happening, it was like, wow, another platform has, been established. And so I take I don't have on a hat, but take my hat off to you guys for even starting this type of dialogue to have other people engaged. But my wish, my prayer is to continue dinner and dialogue with men and boys so that they will have a safe haven that they can go to and they can be able to talk amongst themselves and not feel judged, not being, like their opinions doesn't matter. It's needed. We have too many young boys who have absent fathers. And so even with that, it's the duty of you guys, and I'm not trying to put any pressure on you, but men, to sit down with these boys and instill in them some values and morals that they might not get at home. And so I just charge, like I said, Nick, Anthony, and Bates, they know how this works. But I want to see the continuation of dinner and dialogue. It can be via Zoom, due to COVID-19, we have to really redo a lot of things, but I need help. So I'm reaching out. Right. I'm charging you guys. Yeah. I need help with the continuation of dinner and dialogue. And so for those who are on this live and they're listening and know what I'm asking for, reach out. I need to continue what Alex started. I know how much it meant to him. And so it's very important to me when I'm, with the continuation of his legacy, this is part of it. And I can't let that die. He wouldn't want that.
So good.
Yeah. That's so good. Absolutely. I got you. Anything I can do. And I see Bates on here. So I'm sure he's on board. We're going to make it happen. I know Anthony and Nick, great men, man. And then, I'm sitting here, and like you, Reg, man, I'm sitting here holding back because, Lee, your words are so touching. I'm trying to call you your high school name. I had to stop myself. I thought I'd give you a nickname. I don't know if you want me to say that. I know you on the board and all of that. You prestigious.
You can do just that, yeah.
But you know what? It's amazing to see somebody, and that is, and I salute it because I see myself moving. And I'm just saying it this way. I admire seeing somebody who's found a call and a purpose that's bigger than themselves.
Yes, sir.
And even to the point of them being exhausted and not here, the vision and the work is bigger than them.
That's right.
I don't think a lot of people have got to the place where the work is bigger than them. And so I heard that and I felt that and it's an honorable place where the scripture says where death loses its sting, where it's not this monster that you're afraid of. It's if it's my time, and like you said, me and God, he made a chess move and he already made me comfortable with what's going on. Let me do my assignment and move on. I mean, that whole idea is just an awesome thing to find peace with knowing your assignment, knowing the time that he's given you and maximizing what's been placed in your hand. That is just awesome. I want, my heart is, as you're talking about, and Hulk talked about it, young leaders getting involved, and I'm just going to speak my heart. I think one of the challenges we got to get over, I think generationally, we love to plug new, fresh people into old processes, into old or things that they have established or have established. And I think sometimes instead of letting folks kind of find and find their place, like you talked about, and be in tune with what God has called them to do, when you're talking about, I'm reminded when Eli was the father and he was calling Samuel.
Right.
When Samuel was like, I hear a voice, and he didn't even know what it was. The father didn't try to give him instructions on what to do. He said, whatever he tells you to do, listen. In other words, I want to connect you to the voice of God, but you gotta listen to him to find your place in your path and what he's calling you to do. And I think we as a community don't value the whole project enough. Let me just put it in this way. When I was building the house, it became clear to me there was one blueprint that's left on the plan. And you're going to have different people coming on the project site to offer different skill set. You got a foundation layer. You've got somebody who's framer. You've got somebody who's putting in your windows. You got somebody who's doing the roofing. You got somebody who's going to do your sheetrock. You got somebody who's going to paint. You got somebody who's going to do the landscape. Everybody who's coming to the job, they have to look at the same blueprint to build the same building, but they offer a different skill set. And I think too many of us have the mentality that because I laid foundation for the last 30 years, I need for you to come up and lay some more foundation. And once foundation is laid, somebody's got to come in with a whole different skill set, and that is the frame.
That's right.
Or the house will be stagnant. And I think we've got to value different assignments, different gifts, and really push people to be who God has called you to do and get busy being that, instead of trying to pull people to assignment that was never for them.
Yeah.
And I think for people who have an understanding of what God is calling them to do, to be pulled in those directions when you know your assignment sometimes can be frustrating. And I just want us to really value the whole picture. I was told by one leader, I was saying kind of this thing, and he was like, "Hey, well, I get that, but when the city's on, when something's on fire, we need everybody to stop what they're doing and go get a bucket." Well, reality is, when there's a rescue or when there's a fire, everybody's not a firefighter. It can be an emergency, but somebody got to take care of those they pull out the fire. Somebody's got to be Red Cross and make sure they got housing for the night because their house just burned down. Somebody's got to be offer grief counseling to make sure their mind is right. It can be a critical situation, and people can still be in a critical mindset, but still have different jobs. And so I think as a community, we got to understand that and push people to be the best that God has called them to be, instead of suppressing somebody's good because you thought they should be doing something else.
That's right.
That's good.
That's right. Can I share another part of this book with you guys?
Yeah,
absolutely.
There's a section in there that I titled "He Lived," and so it said, and I'm waiting on the edited version to come back. So it's in my own words, but it says some of us have been asked the question: are you existing, or are you living? Are you existing by doing only what is necessary to stay alive, or are you embracing every moment as it comes, favoring every moment of your existence for what it is? Are you waking up every morning with purpose, inspired to empower and help others, chasing and fulfilling your dreams and doing whatever it takes to obtain them? From what I observed, Alex not only lived, but he lived a purpose-driven life with expectations to make a difference in the lives of others. He became the change he wanted to see by uplifting both men and women during times of discouragement. Wow. By mentoring children on a weekly basis with Gemstones and Compass Leadership Academy. He poured and opened his heart to men and boys while having dinner and dialogue with them, discussing life, man issues, community, and current events. Life's most persistent and urgent question is, what are you doing for others? Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. Alex was a leader, a servant, youth advocate, and community activist. His daily objective was to make each moment count by including those who wanted to make a difference, who were open to being a catalyst for change and were not afraid of becoming the change they desired to see. Alex didn't just exist. He lived life with purpose. So my question to you after reading this book is, are you existing or are you living? And with that being said, my husband, he lived.
Wow.
He lived.
That's
Unapologetically, good. He lived. And
Wow.
so that's the charge for all of us. Are we living or are we existing? Do we really want to be the change we want to see?
Mm.
And so, you know,
That's
just to
amazing.
be able to read and just to think back, I'm glad that he found his purpose, not
Yeah.
just on his ALS journey, but in life. And he
Yeah.
fulfilled it while he was here.
Amazing.
He gave it all he had. And one of his favorite songs is Keep Rising to the Top. And he gave it all he had.
Hmm.
He
That's
did. He
good.
died empty.
Yeah. Wow.
Yep.
I think you know, I want to say just ask a question about ways about the foundation that you guys started. I want to hear about that. But you know, I just want to say I admire your strength as much as
Yeah.
I admire everything that he's done. Man, you know, I admire. I mean, if anybody's watching this and doesn't feel the presence of God, something is wrong with you.
I'm telling you.
Wow.
Wow.
You know, like you know, you got to be numb to it. Secondly, just to hear your spirit and your heart and your courage to continue to fight. I know this has not been easy for you, but the way that you are leading and the way that you carry the legacy, you know, I want you to just to let you know that, man, I so value that, and it's so important. It's been a privilege just to even hear the words of wisdom that you speak, and you can tell that you guys were one. You know, like
Oh, yeah.
it was just one. You can hear it. You know, it's just you guys that came to a place of just being one. So those things are important. I don't really have a lot to say because you said a lot about the legacy of just what we do. I heard you speaking so much authority when you gave us a charge, and I think it's a charge that's resonating through our community right now. You know, there's some amazing efforts and leaders going and doing some amazing things, but the charge that you just gave was a charge that I know me and Brad talk about and Red's talk about. We want to see. This is a charge in our community.
Yeah.
And the reason that we wanted to hear from you is because we knew that with that emptying, this needed to get out to more people to hear it, because
Yeah.
there's some things that we couldn't be as close to see, but we still needed the crumbs. I love the story about how the bones of Elijah healed a dead man. You know,
Yeah.
that there's still life in the bones, you know, and I think sometimes that we think just because a person is gone that there's still not life on their legacy after they're gone. So I know that if there's still power for a dead man's bones to resurrect somebody dead from the grave, that there's still anointing and purpose on what God gave Alex to continue to help live this legacy through that city and through our community. So I want to hear a little bit more about the Gemstone Foundation that you guys talked about. How do people give to it? How do people learn about it? What can we do? Is it still going? Like, tell me a little bit about that. I know Ray's probably asked some questions, but I wanted to hear a little bit about that for the listeners and people that are watching.
Gemstones and Compass Leadership Academy is a 501c3 nonprofit organization. And so one of our mottos is inspired to empower. And that's what we do for youth 5th through 12th grade. And so, of course, it's for boys and girls, some at-risk youth. And so when Alex and I started, we started probably with 30 kids. And one of the things that we ask parents, we're not trying to take your place, but don't undo what we're doing. And I think that's one of the things that really helped, because the kids were able to trust us. They listened. We saw a major turnaround academically and just in their personalities. We had a lot of introverts that came in, and now they're social butterflies. And so they're part of our organization, but they're our children. It's just beyond them being a member in an organization. They are mine, and their parents know that. I will go far great lengths for these kids. And so one of the things that we were proud of, last year, Alex and I, we had set a goal when we started, and we gave out $10,000 in college scholarships.
Wow.
And so was it easy? Absolutely not. We started a lot of it out of our pockets, but we knew what our goals were. And so we did a lot of fundraising. We reached out to people. We got a contract with the Panthers, and that was a way that we were able to, supply these scholarships to these children. And so even with it being for high school kids, if you were in college, we still gave you a stipend for, making it to the next level. And so we've poured into them financially, but we have poured into them emotionally and mentally. And so, we provided a safe haven for our children.
Wow.
In addition to that, having a food pantry that services our youth, but also anyone in the community who has a need, a food and toiletry pantry. And so we just, put our motion in place, and we were able to accomplish a lot of great things. And so once Alex became ill, we had to put it on the back burner 6 months before he passed away, basically. And so now it's more so getting things back up and running, but it's still keeping close contact to our kids that are in our program. The work never stops. So we've still been able to service the community with the food pantry, and we actually supplied food bags during spring break for people in the community. And it just wasn't part of our organization. It was for anybody who was in need. And so even today, there's still a great need to help those, who need it and whatnot. And so after Alex passed away, I started the Alex Clark Foundation. And so with that being said, I'm quite sure you guys have seen where the Chamber of Commerce named their scholarship after Alex. And so with his foundation, monies from that, I was able to match it dollar for dollar. Wow. And so I know that's exactly what he wants me to do, continue his legacy that way, but also it's for leadership purposes. And so that's what he stood for. And one of the quotes that Alex gave me was, the biggest commitment is being committed to the commitment. If you're going to do it wholeheartedly. Don't second guess if you're going to commit to something, make sure you stand behind what you're saying you're going to do. And so even with that, that's always a charge for me. I'm committed to the legacy of Alex Clark. I'm committed to the continuation of everything that he started. And so you speak about like my strength, you guys, I cry every day because it's a daily struggle. I miss him every day. And so it doesn't, when I wake up in the morning, it's like, Lord and God and Alex, what is it that you want me to do today? And so I can hear him saying, Queen, be extraordinary. So being extraordinary means the continuation of his legacy. Being extraordinary means being that leader that he know that I can be, as well as myself, and making a difference in the lives of others. Is it easy? No, but I know what I have to do as a woman. I know what I have to do carrying the name of Alex Clark. And so I just, I do it with a smile on my face because I know that's exactly what he would want me to do. So I'm committed to the commitment. And so that commitment is the youth in our community. That would never change. That's part of my purpose. And so as long as I can make a difference in their lives and others, mission accomplished.
Wow. What a mic drop.
I know, Pastor Hawkins, you want to go ahead and say your final say so. Then
before he does it, I know you got to go, Hawk. But Leash, we got a comment, Fox, as how can we donate? So tell the folks if that are listening how they could donate to this great cause. What are some ways they can do that electronically or otherwise?
Okay, donations are being accepted on our website, which is www.gemstonesandcompass.org. We also have 2 cash apps. One is Gemstones and Compass, and the other one is Leash Bird. Both of those ways. But basically through our website, which is attached to PayPal. So it's, again, our website is www.gemstonesandcompass.org. And also anything that's sold out of Alex's store, which is melanatedgenius.com, all proceeds from hats and shirts that are purchased go straight to the Alex Clark Foundation.
And the do you see that, Reg? The Gemstone and Compass is also the Cash App.
Okay.
Yeah. The same right there as the website.
All right.
And also, just to be able to have a more in-depth insight about Alex's journey with ALS, again, A Beautiful Storm comes out next month, and it's being pre-sold on our website, which is abeautifulstorm2020.com. And so the book can be pre-ordered. I will have some in hand next month, and it really dives into our journey and just honoring our vows, which was,
Yeah.
That's good.
Yeah, that's.
Oh,
Go ahead, man.
No. Thank you so much, Miss Alicia, again for your strength and just sharing your testimony. Amazing, anointed testimony. And I just want everybody that's watching tonight, if you guys can, let's sow. Let's be the community. Let's do what we know that we can do. Let's sow. 2 things. Let's sow. Let's buy the book. The reason that these guys, two of the best hearted guys I've ever met in my life. And when we come together, we talk about this stuff. We want to give an opportunity for people inside of our community to see the gems and the geniuses inside of our community. And so we had one that left us and one that's still here. So we honor your legacy while you're still here to help continue that legacy. And just want to say thank you for being a part of this show tonight.
Yeah. I don't have nothing to say. Pastor Taylor.
I'm full, man. Leash knows, for the last year, I used to check on her a lot. She was on my her name was constantly on my prayer list. I used to encourage her because I knew how hard it was. But the grace that she showed through this whole process, I used to tell her all the time, man, you're such an example of what true, unapologetic, unfiltered love really looks like. And first of all, before I just say about the legacy of him, I just want to give you your kudos while you still here. You carried every piece of your pain with such grace. And I just salute you for that. Man, Hawk said it earlier about the last miracle Elisha did about his bones having healing power even in the grave. And that struck a chord with me because about 2012, my father passed in July, and he passed on a Thursday, and I had to stand in the pulpit and preach that Sunday morning. And the message I preached, I never forget it, was buried alive. And I used that same text, that even though he's in the grave, because of what he's placed in us that remain, he'll always live on.
Yeah.
So I feel that same way about Alex, that even though he was buried, he's not dead, and his legacy will continue. And even tonight, again, it's been said about this season, bringing a stir into people to do more, to say more, to be involved, to shift, to change. And I just want to tell you tonight, I thank you for the push. I thank you. A lot of times being vulnerable as a leader, sometimes people see in you stuff that you don't even see in yourself. And people, because of what they see in you, they require something that you don't even feel the confidence to do. And but I feel the push. I feel the urgency. And I just want to say thank you for the example. And I appreciate you tonight.
Thank you.
Any closing words you want to say before we get off?
The only thing, in the words of Alex Clark, is be extraordinary. We got work to do, and there's room for everybody at the table. Tap into your greatness, tap into your gifts and talents, and meet me at the table. There's plenty of seats here. We got some serious work to do for our community. Our kids, our youth, they are dependent on us. They are looking up to us. Yeah. So thank you guys for allowing me to share.
No, thank you.
Thank you for honoring Alex today. I know he's extremely grateful. I know I am. So again, thank you so much for allowing me.
Well, if all hearts,
thank you for coming.
Clear,
Doc. Clear.
You want to end with a prayer, Pastor Taylor, and get off?
Man, I was trying to sneak out of here, boy. I'm trying to hold these things back, but listen, I'll do that. It'll be my pleasure. Father, we thank you and we give you honor and we give you praise for this moment. We thank you that even though things seem like they're in an uproar, even though things seem like they are in chaos, in disarray, you are intentional and you are strategic and you're not caught by surprise. And I just believe that, like the pool of Bethesda in John 5, you are stirring the pool. You are troubling the water so that miracles and healings can take place. We give you praise for those who have made the decision to jump in the troubled water, to not run from the agitation, not run from the commotion or the unrest, but Lord, to embrace it in this moment, knowing that this is a God moment. This is a time to move forward. This is a time to shift. And Father, I pray for every single person that is doing any good in our community. I pray that you broaden their shoulders. I pray that you give them the strength and the courage and the endurance to run the race that you've given them. I thank you for you giving wisdom to our community to band together. I stand in the posture of Christ when he stood before he was offered up. And his last prayer was, Father, make them one as me and you are one. Father, I pray for a spirit of oneness to hit our community. I pray that you would just let us lay aside our personal agendas and prefer our brothers. I pray that you would just give us such a unity and a strength and a bond so that everybody feels comfortable at the table, knowing that we need their gifting, their strategy, and their ability that you've given them. And we thank you, God, for every supply being supplied by every joint that is put together. And we bless you for it and we praise you for it. In Jesus' name, amen.
Amen.
Hallelujah.
Amen.
Amen.
Y'all go to the website, get the book, donate. Remember, we had
Queenish.
Queenish.
Yes.
The Queenish. Buy something, man. We got to start supporting one another.
That's right.
Support. Like Miss Bird Clark said, it's enough chairs at the table. It's enough chairs at the table, man. But I thank y'all, man, and God bless everybody watching tonight. See y'all later.
Good
Thank
night.
y'all. Peace.